Hey there. Listen, this morning I got up, I was surprised and delighted to see that when I brought up ChatGPT, I saw that I had been given access to DALL-E 3, which recently came out, right? They've been rolling it out to users. Maybe you've got your hands on it already, and or maybe not, but you will soon, from what I understand, over the next couple of weeks. Everybody who has ChatGPT, who has a GPT Pro account or subscription will get access to DALL-E 3. Now, I've been playing around with it all day today, and I just wanted to point out one little quick tip that's really from an annoyance, I'd say. That annoyance is the amount of space this text takes up. It doesn't take up the whole area. It doesn't expand out forever how long this is. And specifically what this is the prompt that was used to generate this very specific picture. Now, if you haven't seen this yet, let's just look at something when, where did I even start on this guy? When you give a prompt, what you end up with is 4 different pictures that are generated. Kind of similar to Midjourney and how that works, but the difference is that each of these pictures has a different prompt, and every time you run it again and again and again, or even say something like, can you redo these, right, it generates new prompts for each of the pictures. I'm not sure why this 4th one failed, but you can see the prompts when you open up the picture, and if you were to scroll through each of the different images, you'll see that the prompt is changing. And so that's what you might use to be able to see, why does this picture look this particular way versus, one of the other ones looks a little different, right? Is there a difference in the prompt here? So you can't see the whole thing. Now you can copy this and you can paste it into something else that has more space, but that's seriously annoying, right? So the other thing that you could do is you could make this smaller until some of the styling switches around the organization, but you end up with a smaller picture, unfortunately. You are able to see the whole prompt though, and I've seen some of longer prompts and this copy button gets pushed down, so this one does seem to adjust based on the amount of text that's in here, but that's also kind of annoying because you probably want to see the picture larger. So how do you do this? So one of the things I realized, now this is totally a hack, and I'm sure that they, OpenAI will fix this. I'm sure somebody's going to point it out. But until then, one thing that you can do is you can, if you're using Chrome, click on something in this area and select Inspect. And what we're going to do is we're just going to change the style, which is associated with this particular area of the web page, right? So here's the code that the browser has that is based on the code that came from the server from OpenAI or from ChatGPT, and it is held locally. It's held on your computer, and so you can make changes to this. You can change the text, you can change the organization, you can change anything you want, and it will get reflected here. It doesn't push anything back to OpenAI. It doesn't really change anything for anybody else, but it's just changing it how it looks on your computer until, of course, you refresh and you get new code comes down and it replaces whatever you did. But for our purposes, we can make a small little change here to make it easier to be able to see this. So here's the code that's associated with this area, and I'll just expand this little block out, and you can see here's the full text, and it's not all shown. It's because the styling is actually hiding whatever the overflow is. And so what we want to do is when we want to make this smaller and make the space bigger. So I'll just close this down. So long as I have this selected, the style for whatever I have selected up above is shown down here. And there's an awful lot of stuff here. But just here at the top, you can see this one little section here has to do with the text. But it is really associated with this block, this whole block. So even though this is about font sizes and stuff here, I can just click right here to the right of this little squiggly bracket, and you'll see that it adds another line. Now I can add height, hit enter, and it goes to the other side of the colon, and you can type something like 400 pixels, right? You can see that that space just got a lot taller. Now, of course, if I were to close this panel, it would have more space, right? So it's, you know, while that panel was open, it still wasn't big enough, but even still, this is almost too big. So if you needed even more space, I'll just bring this back up again. Right underneath where we added height, you can see that there's something for font size and something for line height. So this font size is making something bigger than it actually wants to be. So if you uncheck that, it makes the text smaller. So I don't know if you could tell, but there's more text fit there now. But it's the same thing with this line height, which isn't the height of the letters, it's the height of the space each letter takes up, which includes like that space in between the lines. So if you make that space smaller, then it tightens up the space between the lines. And so let's remove that guy, and now we see we got even more space. Now the cool thing about this is because this styling, each of these little blocks of code, these are like little templates that the site uses for in various different places. So you're actually changing the code for the page itself. So it's not just for this one picture. If I close this, every picture that has a prompt next to it has the same, uses the same styling template. So as I go from one to the next, it's using the same template, that changed template that we just, you know, amended. I could even close this, and I can click on one of the other ones, maybe even earlier, and you'll see that it still has been updated, right? So I still have more room in here. And I can even go to, say, another page in this site, because those templates are used throughout ChatGPT here. And I can open up another picture, and you'll see it's also got the same new space. Now, if I were to just refresh this whole page, I just refresh the page, that's going to erase what I did, because it's going to pull down the code again from OpenAI, and it's going to update whatever I have held locally, and all my changes are gone, right? So if I click on here, you'll see that it's back again. So it's not a permanent fix, but it will, you know, so long as you don't refresh the page, it should maintain it. Now, actually, let's try something. I'm curious if I close it and I come back, if it is the same as refreshing. So here, watch what I do here. I'm going to add my height back in, whatever it was, 400 pixels. I'm going to turn off my font and line height stuff, so it's smaller letters, tighter lines. Close this guy, and things look good. And what happens? I'm going to bring up another browser. I'm going to close this. So imagine I just closed it and I wanted to come back again. I don't know what's going to happen, but let's see. I still lost it. Okay, so you make the change. So long as you still have that page open, or ChatGPT open, then you'll still be able to sort of navigate around and come back to it, and it would maintain that space that you reset. But if you ever did refresh it or close it and come back to it, or open it up in a different tab, then you'll have to redo that. But as you could see, it took 3 seconds to go and change that. So anyways, I thought that would be just an interesting quick tip. If you ever come across that issue and you're as annoyed by this spacing as I am, anyways, good luck.